Well, hello everyone. Welcome back to the channel. Jake here with you. Uh, just gonna go through tonight and gonna be wiring up the. I've got some of the stuff wired for the nacelle. This will be for the port side nacelle. I've got the starboard side nacelle pretty much done. I was trying to experiment with it and trying to figure out, how to do things before I just did things on the channel. But things turned out pretty nice here. I got it all wired in, lit up, and test lighted. And what I'll do now is I'll show you how it works. I'll get all the let me get it hooked up to power here, and show you how well it turned out. As you can see, let me zoom in here a little bit. Got everything lit up, and it looks really well. Had a little bit of putty work to do here around the front of the nacelles by the Bassard collectors to get rid of those seams, but those are going to turn out pretty nice. What I did is I spray painted these with some Testors model spray clear transparent blue paint, and they turned out pretty well. This, of course, the camera's going to wash out the blue, but it's really pretty in person. And what I did is I sprayed some transparent red down inside of the Bassard collectors, and then I took some sandpaper on the outside and some 1200 grit sandpaper and sprayed some water down on it, and then sanded it down to kind of wash it out a little bit, to make it where it's not so bright and so pinpointed. So it looks very well. Like I said, the camera's gonna wash it out a little bit too much for you to get a good look. But got in here with some fiber optics on the back side for the strobe light for the back, and once the board's connected to it, it'll flash at a slower. If y'all notice on the refit, the Enterprise 1/350 scale refit that I did, the strobe beacons that are on the back of the nacelles flashed at a pretty fast rate. These are going to flash a little bit slower than that. So, but this one's just about ready for its. I've got the main coat of paint down. I just got to go back through and do some sanding, paint these sections here the darker blue, these yellow, and then the back end here as the thrusters. I'm going to paint those yellow. But other than that, and then go back through it and putting the decals on, and I'll take you through a video of all that. But it turned out pretty nice. I'm pretty pleased with the way it happened. I put an LED light strip down inside there, and I mounted a you're going to have to on the nacelles, to light the front, you're going to have to mount a little bit of a bulkhead, something there in the middle to mount the LED so it'll flash forward out of the Bassard collector. So that's what I did there. Took a piece of thick sprue and used some CA glue and glued it down, and it's holding pretty well. And then what I'll do is I'll go back through before I close all this up, and I'll sand it to kind of diffuse the light a little bit to where it's not so bright and there's not a big area coming out at the front showing up real bright. So but now I'll take you through and show you how to wire. I've got a little bit of wiring. I know I told you I'd do that. So let me get these clips back up. Put this out of the way. What I'm going to be doing now is I don't know if you can see it very well, but this is let me pull it up to the camera here and see if it'll focus a little bit. This is the strobe light on the strobe beacon for the back of the nacelle. And what I've done is I drilled a little bitty hole in the middle of this LED which if you've noticed on these LEDs have a little bit of a blank space down there in the front. So what you can do is take a little bit of a drill bit and run it down there almost to the diode, because if you hit that diode you're going to mess the bulb up. So you almost to the end of the edge of the diode, and then I took some .030 fiber optic, clear fiber optic, and what I've done here on the back is I've drilled out the hole for the beacon goes, and once I get it wired, I'll slide the fiber optic down inside through that hole, and I'll get it into position and then snip it off with a pair of, you want to use fingernail clippers for these, that way it doesn't crimp the end and leave you with a bad end to where you won't be able to see the light very well. And then what I'll do to kind of keep it in place is I'll use my lighter here to hold up against the edge of this fiber optic to kind of mushroom it out a little bit. So we'll zoom out a little bit, and I'm going to go ahead and wire the resistor on, and then the wire, and we should be good to go. So then I'll get that mounted in there, and I'm going to have to mount the bulb right down in the bottom of this, on the bottom side of this nacelle, to where the can't think tonight, the fiber optic will go up through the hole. So let me get my soldering iron. I'll heat this wire up. I should start taking here in a second. Usually when you see that puff of smoke, you're pretty good to go. Get that. Alright. That's ready for that. Now I'll take my red wire. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim this piece down here because it's just a little too long. So I'm going to do is I'm going to trim it down just a little bit. Have just enough to wrap this wire on. I'm going to move this down to where I have a good clean wire. I'm going to take that out. And actually what I've learned is if you don't want to sit there and hold this wire because it gets hot, I've learned to pinch it and then wrap the wire around to where it'll stay, and then I'll put it back in my grip, my helping hands, and then that way I'm not even nowhere near the wire to have to hold it, because these wires do get hot. So hold that on there for a second, and once you see that puff of smoke, you know it's ready to go. So rub a little bit of solder on there. There we go. Now I know that's on there pretty well. So now I'm going to do the same thing, flip it over and do the same thing to my negative wire. Let me get that. Where'd that go? There we go. It's hiding on me. And I'll do the same thing to it. Clean off my tip there. I'm rubbing this tip of the soldering iron on there just a little bit to kind of heat up the wire. That way all I got to do is just touch the two, and my soldering iron is not the greatest. There we go. Run some solder down. Alright. It's fairly simple. Now what I'll do is get my power supply here and give it a test to make sure it's working. So I'm going to strip these ends real quick. Normally I'd be using magnet wire, but I ran out, so I'm using up some spare. Alright, now we have light, and I'll hold it up around the edge of the bulb, but if you can see, you got light coming through that wire, that fiber optic, and you could pretty much bend this stuff pretty much to a crease, and it will still put light out. So now what I'm going to do is put my helping hands over here. What I've done is I've already pre-wired this here because it's going to be pretty much on the main circuit, and so what I'm going to do is I've put this 5mm bulb right here in the middle, and I don't know if you can get a good view of it or not, but there's two black marks here, pretty much make it dead center in between the two nacelle halves, the top and the bottom, to where when I mount this 5mm LED, it will stick pretty well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to peel off my backing to my light strip and put it in. That way I can kind of see where to get right there, a little toward the back. I've got that hole right here. I don't know if you can see it or not, but there's a tiny hole right here. This is where the fiber optic is going to go. So try to put it as close to the back to get equal lighting. And now that I've got that on, I can put this 5mm LED in place. What I'll do is I'll hold it up like this. I'll get my CA glue, and I think my cap stuck on me here, so and get my Insta set. What I'll do is I'll dab a little bit of CA glue there and on the back side, and then I'll take my Insta set that's pretty well set. Now I'll do the same thing with this LED light strip to kind of hold it in place, because this stuff has a tendency to want to pull up on you. So I'll take my Insta set and spray it down, and I'll do the same thing in the back here. And if you get any on the wires, it's not going to hurt it. Got that on my fingers. Now I'm going to have super glue on my fingers. Now I'll glue down my wires to keep them in place. And this is time consuming, but you want to take your time and do it right. Make sure you want to wipe off some of the extra. Alright, now we'll turn it around. We'll do the same thing with the gray wire, negative. I'll hold that down there. On my lid. Alright, that's done. So pretty much the top side's done, ready to go, and I can run my wires down through the bottom side, of the nacelle for the power. And now what I'll do is I'll take my and one other thing that you might want to do is I found out you want to I better put a make sure that when you have wiring in close proximity to one another, you want to put some shrink tubing on there so it doesn't accidentally cross, and then you can burn out your system and then have to take it all apart and redo it. Alright. Now that's on there and it's nice and close. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this on here with a little bit of CA glue first to kind of hold this down, and then I'm going to light block it with some foil tape, which you can get this a roll of foil tape at your your local hardware store. In the heating and air conditioning section, and this stuff lasts, pretty good time, pretty long time. And let that set for a second. Alright, now that's setting there pretty good. What I'll do is I'll take a small piece of this foil tape, which acts as a really good light blocker. And you don't have to worry about it heating up or melting off or damaging anything, because this stuff is used for heating and cooling systems, so it'll hold the temperature very well, and you don't have to worry about it being as long as you have your wires wrapped pretty good. You don't have to worry about it shorting out anything. And what I'll do is I'll test it again to make sure the lights, it's still good working. This time I'm just going to take my 9-volt battery. And you can just do a quick test like this. Just make sure you have them. Yeah, see, it's working good, so we're good to go there. So what I might do is cut a little hole, just enough to raise the shrink tubing, or not the shrink tubing, but the fiber optic, sorry. I'm having trouble thinking. And there you go. It's down. It's ready to go together now. So next video, well, I guess I can go ahead. What I'll do is I'll go ahead and try to get all this stuff down in here and together, at least on the we have our chiller grill. So what we'll do is like I see, I got just a little bit of flashing here. What I'm going to do is go ahead and run my wires down through the hole. and you want to make sure that you label each system, like strobes, navs, main power. That way you don't have to worry about later on going back through and trying to figure out what's what, because it can be a bad pain to do that. Believe me, I've made that mistake. So I'll get my tester's model glue here, put some in the holes there. And like I said, don't worry about getting glue on the little extra glue, ain't gonna hurt. What I'll do is I'll go ahead and set those down in there. Get the other one. Now what I'll do is I'll get the glue. Well, this one's not wanting to stay on there very well. I'll get ready to pull these wires down through. It's going to be a little bit time consuming. Clip that end off. Well, I have to glue that back down. Tell you what, this is not wanting to work with me tonight. I think we about got it though. And I will go ahead and put my glue where it needs to be. Should be ready to close this up now. I'll stick this through the hole. Hopefully we'll get it here pretty quick. There we go. And there you have it. Let me so what I'm going to do now is go off camera and finish this off, and the next video update you see, we'll be going through. I'm going to put some tape on this to kind of hold the glue down real quick. I'll make sure you have good enough glue. Make it tight enough to where it ain't going to move. Alright, there you go. So what I'm going to do now is go back through and put the Bassard collector on, get it sanded down, put on, and get ready for the putty work, and that should be it. So the next time we'll be having this, I'll have this mounted to the pylons and getting it ready to install on the ship and getting the ship closed up. So again, thank you, and this is I forgot to mention this is part 4. So have a good night.